Hey everybody, it is officially Wednesday. I hope that your first week of NTI is going well. Please make sure that you're getting your stuff done, you're getting it turned in. Some of you have done an amazing job of doing that. If you have not yet completed yesterday's assignment, please go back and do that right now. So these things kind of build on each other, and you need to make sure that you're getting them done so that everything makes sense. But if you're ready for today, let's go ahead and get started. So, we're going to talk very briefly about something that's called the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. So, to backtrack a little bit, we're back in the Louisiana Purchase land. The northern part of the Louisiana Purchase had been classified as Indian Territory. And in 1854, there's a senator named Stephen Douglas who wants to open that land up so that the Transcontinental Railroad could pass through it. He proposes dividing the land into two separate areas because there is still going to be this question of, if we have these new territories and they eventually become states, will they be slavery states or will they be anti-slavery states? So Stephen Douglas's solution is let these two territories decide through popular sovereignty what they want to be. So this act makes its way through Congress, but really it just encourages a whole lot of controversy. And what happens in Kansas is you have settlers, both pro and anti slavery, who pour into that territory to either support or oppose slavery. Two separate governments get set up, one that supported slavery, the other that was against it. And very quickly, as things happen, sometimes you have two different sides that are very passionate about their opinions. Violence can break out. So, really, these are kind of the first drops of blood that are shed prior to the Civil War happen in Kansas. So, you really could say that the Civil War kind of begins there, although not officially. But without this issue in Kansas, who's to say it would have ever occurred? So Kansas gets this nickname called Bleeding Kansas, and there are two major incidents in 1856 that really solidify this as its nickname. The first one happens May 21st in a pro-slavery, an anti-slavery town of Lawrence, Kansas. That's the home of Kansas University for anybody who is missing basketball right now, like I am. But essentially, this anti slavery town of Lawrence gets overcome on the night of May 21st by 700 pro slavery border ruffians. They attack the town, they burn down the hotel, they loot homes, they destroy the printing press. This is going to really upset this guy that's in the bottom left hand corner of your screen, John Brown. He's an abolitionist, he's living in Kansas. He is trying very hard to make sure that slavery is coming to an end. He's arguing against the practice, and so he's very religious too. And just like Nat Turner, who I talked about yesterday, he believes that God has kind of spoken to him and told him to do this. And so on May 23rd, he, just angry and upset over this attack in Lawrence, Kansas, decides to invade the nearby pro-slavery town of Pottawatomie, Kansas. All right, so that's quite a name for you, but that's its name, Pottawatomie, Kansas. So in the dark of the night, essentially what he and four of his sons do is they drag five pro-slavery men from their beds. They hack them to death with swords. It's a really, really horrific act of violence. And so both of these incidents are just kind of just a horrific way for this slavery debate to continue to kind of spill over. At the same time, tensions are running pretty high in Washington, D.C. You guys are going to read a little bit more about this, but something called the caning of Charles Sumner happens. Essentially, you have an individual named Charles Sumner who gives this speech called The Crime Against Kansas. It upsets a pro-slavery representative by the name of Preston Brooks. Brooks ends up attacking Sumner. That's the cartoon that you looked at today. Over his views. So Brooks, again, is pro-slavery. Sumner is anti-slavery. Brooks takes his cane, he hits Sumner until essentially Charles Sumner is unconscious. So the violence is spilling over even in the halls of the Capitol building. So just to kind of look at the map one last time before I let you go, this is the territory that's being debated over. So the Greenlands here, the Kansas territory, the Nebraska territory. We're already at a point where California is a free state. Utah and New Mexico are open to slavery. Oregon territory is free. Minnesota is free. And these two new territories get to decide by vote what they are going to do. So go ahead, answer your question that goes along with this. You've got to use claim, evidence, and reasoning to answer that question. And then you have a little bit to read to get some more information about the caning of Charles Sumner. If you have any questions, please send me a remind, send me an email, reach out in some way, and I will help you. Have a good Wednesday.